Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, AC Dunlap, and I'm so glad that you've joined us today. Joy in Our Town brings you the issues and problems that are faced in the local community with the hope of finding a solution. Our guest for this segment is Yolanda Stewart, co-founder of Water, Light, and Time Educational Services. She joins us today to share important information regarding literacy and nurturing for young males, along with how reading contributes to academic performance and leadership skills. Welcome, Yolanda.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. We are glad that you've joined us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your history with the organization?
Sure. I initially started Real Boys Read as an outgrowth of my dissertation. I just defended my dissertation at Ohio State last spring, where a lot of the ideas were developed, but I really didn't have the tools and the resources to put it to the ground and, really start it to rolling.
Okay.
So our district has a program called the Teacher Leadership Institute, where they encourage teachers to take ideas that they have and really grow them up so that they're a benefit to our students and the community. So through that initiative offered by our district, I was able to get the feedback from my peers and be coached through the process of bringing an idea all the way to fruition. So they operate off of the premise that teachers are leaders, we have a voice in the community, and we can be instrumental in helping solve the problems that we see in our classroom.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what are your personal responsibilities within the organization?
Well, as founder of Real Boys Read, my husband and I sort of oversee the entire project, but my responsibilities specifically are everything in the background that they meet once a month, ideally, for the Real Boys Read sessions on Sundays, every second Sunday. And I know we'll probably talk about that later, but my responsibilities consist of fundraising, marketing, the curriculum content that I introduce to the men who will be working with the boys. My goal is to decrease the burden, to lighten the burden that the men who are working with the boys, that they'll have to experience, so that when they're working with the boys, they can just solely focus on their interactions and relationships with the boys. So
Yolanda, can you tell me, how was the program formulated? What was the motivation behind this particular program?
Well, I think initially just listening to the voices of the boys in my dissertation, but also from just previously interacting in multiple contexts with boys. They don't identify themselves as readers. And in the classroom and in talking to my peers, a lot of our boys have a very negative attitude towards reading. And looking at the literature related to boys and attitudes when they're compared to girls, regardless of their socioeconomic status or their grade level, they routinely have a more negative attitude towards reading than girls. And so that negative attitude directly impacts their level of achievement, we've seen in the literature. So our idea was to take what we know about how they perceive reading and do something about it, like listen to what they say would make it a more positive experience for them and capitalize on that.
So the program deals with literacy and nurturing. Can you talk a little bit about how they go hand in hand?
Well, in our sessions, when we meet with them on second Sundays, the boys are surrounded around men who have partnered with them to read. We focus on a book a month. And so in those sessions, they come in with a very nurturing attitude. The entire environment is nurturing. We break them up into small group sessions, and we pick apart the book, different parts of the book, and we talk to them about it. And so that leads to their greater level of comprehension through discussion, their social skills development, and really getting a sense of how they're processing the text. So it makes it a little less challenging and complicated for them if they're talking to other people about the text, and really making it more enjoyable for them instead of some of the things that we have to do inside of the educational day sometimes can get a little rigorous and intimidating. And so this is sort of a way to counter that a little bit.
So how do you, for someone who's just coming into the program, and maybe I'm a young man who doesn't necessarily like to read, I didn't grow up reading, how do you stair-step me into the program and even provoke my love of reading?
We use a multi-literacy framework. So we try to operate from this whole notion that being literate is not just reading the words on the page. We want them to sort of embody this whole experience of literacy. So one of the things we do is we embrace like videos, different audio, and the discussion is huge. And so we show them by breaking apart different parts of the text and talking about the meaning with them and how it applies to their life. We try to make it something that relates to them on a personal level. Even though a lot of the texts that we choose are complex, we work really hard to try to find the connections so that they understand what long-term meaning this has for them, even outside of the context of school.
Okay, so you guys use differentiated learning?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And why is that important in reading?
Well, I think it's important because we have so many different levels of boys that, you know, we're servicing, you know, in school, and particularly in Real Boys Read. They have a lot of different interest levels, but we try to show them how, even though a lot of the higher level texts that we expose them to, they too can be broken down into, you know, smaller tasks and chunks so that they can comprehend it, because we know they're going to need those skills for high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the name and kind of where that came from?
Well, I mean, I just think that in society in general, this whole notion that boys don't read, they can't read, they won't read, or, you know, they're failures when it comes to reading is sort of this master narrative that's out there. And so that idea that, no, really, you know, real boys read. And we know that they're going to have to be readers in order to be successful in life. So trying to help them grapple with this idea of seeing themselves as readers instead of, you know, pushing that away. And so we've tried to popularize it with our logo and the T-shirts that we give them, that, hey, this is the cool thing, you know, reading is cool.
So now, is your program a culturally specific program, or do you deal with boys from all cultures?
Our primary focus are Black boys, but during our pilot, we did not at all have an issue with the other ethnicities that joined us. We, you know, don't exclude anybody, you know, based off of, you know, anything, but our primary focus in terms of the programming, the books that we select are specifically targeted for boys of color, and most times, most of the books are, you know, African-American male authors.
Okay. Is there a particular age bracket in which you are targeting for this program? Yeah,
right now we're, last year we just had 8th grade boys. This year, because some of our boys will be coming back, this year we'll have primarily 8th and 9th grade boys, but we'll go all the way up to 12th grade.
Okay. Are you seeing any, I guess, disparities in that particular grouping to where the boys that are coming in are reading maybe at a lower level, or do you find that they're at the level they're supposed to be? Oh,
we're seeing that every year in education. A lot of the boys really, really struggle, especially in terms of nonfiction texts. A lot of them are several levels below where they're supposed to be. But as you've probably seen in the media, Columbus is doing a lot of incredible work raising the reading levels of all of our students, and we're really proud of that work and that we're continuing in that.
That's good. Yeah. How do you feel programs like this, literacy, and particularly the nurturing part, helps the young men transition into adulthood?
I think the biggest benefit that programs like this stand to really look at how our boys are positioning themselves in society post-high school. So we already know that if we can get boys to identify as readers, if they have these high levels of literacy that are marketable, not just in the workplace, but just in their daily lives with people, they're going to be better off. We know through research that these are the boys who have these higher levels of literacies. They're going to vote in the national elections. We know they're going to volunteer in their communities. We know they're going to participate in things that are going on in their neighborhood. We know that they're going to help their children with homework, just based off of how they participate in high-level literacy activities. So these are things that are going to, impact them throughout life. And we all know what types of reading you have to do just, on any job.
Right,
So
right.
we really try to push those ideas as well.
Absolutely. Reading is the foundation, of course, of everything that we have to do.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about stereotypes when it comes to literacy in African American males?
Well, I do. I think there's a stigma, out there, especially if we just look at one particular measurement. There's a lot of data out there that shows that African American males, regardless of what test you look at, are at the bottom of the barrel. And so that stigmatism sort of begins to translate, I think, even to them and the way they see themselves. Oh, I can't do this. I've never been good at reading. Look at how I score. And so that's why we broaden our conception of literacy for them. Like we do focus on the more traditional forms of literacy, but we also embrace more non-traditional, broader forms, looking at the cultural, social, and emotional, economic, as well as their spiritual literacies. Okay. So we look at the whole gamut of everything, the whole child, and getting them to understand that it's not just reading the words on the page, it's learning how to read the world around you.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you all work with other organizations to kind of make a stronger push for literacy as far as that population?
We did during our pilot, but obviously we want to do a better job of that this year. So with our 6-month pilot last year, we were very fortunate to work with Al Edmondson. He works with Making a Difference, and so he's our fiscal agent, and he's been very instrumental in bringing in our Barber Bucks program. Okay. So all of the boys that participate with Real Boys Read, they get these Barber Bucks. And every literacy event that they attend that's associated with us, they get these points towards their Barber Bucks. And after they get so many Barber Buck points, they get free haircuts or invitations to participate in different things throughout the city. So it's just a way to incentivize their participation and keep it fun and keep it light. We also partner with the Howard University Alumni Association. They sponsor our end of the year program where we acknowledge the boys and sort of congratulate them for the successes that they've made across the year. And there are other little, organizations we've reached out to for purchasing books and different things like that that have been very gracious in donating as well.
Thank you so much for your time. We definitely appreciate you coming to talk with us today. Coming up next on Joy in Our Town, Senior Health and Wellness. Stay with us. We'll be right back.